Warm-up lap for the qualifying race here on the circuit of Zandvoort. Qualifying race of the 26th edition of the Masters of Formula 3. 15 cars make their way down the straight as one Dallara is still stationary in the pit lane. Colton Herta's Carlin Dallara. And I'm starting to fear that he won't be able to rejoin as this race gets underway. The white and blue, Pedro Piquet. As we have the starting grid in front of us. As the field winds its way through Slotenmaker, all the way down to Schijfvlak, the quickest corner. And definitely the one that everybody loves. But racing in an F3, it's difficult at Zandvoort. Overtaking is difficult, but it is a mega circuit. If you're qualifying or if you're out in front of a group, then it's something to savor, something to really enjoy. But if you're in amongst the pack and really having to fight in the disturbed airflow over the front wing, then it's a different story. It's blustery out there. It will have some effect on the way these cars behave, especially through the penultimate corner, Kumo corner, as the first driver here, Callum Ilott, goes through Kumo into Arie Luijendijk, through onto the main straight. But those two final corners, two right-handers, which basically set the speed for the straight. Ilott and Ericsson, row 1. Alexander Albon and Nico Kari, row 2. All these drivers desperately trying to get some heat into those rear tires to make sure they've got enough traction to get off the line cleanly and quickly. Heart rate going up. Safe in the knowledge that it's all about the start in this qualifying race. And still Colton Herta's car up on the stands in the pit lane. I fear we will miss out on the American. Green flag is waved. 15 cars are ready for the qualifying race of the 26th edition of the Masters of Formula 3 on the circuit of Zandvoort. And we get away, and it's a very good start for Joel Eriksson, one of the drivers, and I fear it's Beckman who had a bad start, but who goes into the first corner first? I believe it's Eriksson. Eriksson ahead of Ilott, and that could be substantial for the rest of the weekend. Third driver, it's Kari, who's gotten ahead of Alexander Albon. Great start also from Sergio Sette-Camara, coming from 7th all the way up to 5th, as it was, I believe, Zhu who had the worst of the starts. And then you can see that the leading car manages to open up a gap. Joel Eriksson, he's the one who's leading. Ahead of number 7, Callum Ilott. And then it's Kari. Number 18, Ricky Capo in 15th. On the inside there. Good move on Vajjanathan. Caught him napping a little bit. But he managed to make it stick through turn 9 into turn 10, and then getting onto the back straight, heading towards the Hans Ernst corner, the chicane, where we now are. Oh, on the outside, Alessio Lorandi, great move on Beckman, David Beckman in number 15, the orange of Mucker Motorsport. And Lorandi making it stick as well, making it look easy, which it's definitely not, and gets onto the tail of Antoine Hubert. First lap, almost done. And it's Eriksson ahead of Ilott, Kari, Albon, Sette-Camara in 5th. He's had really the best start. As the field snakes through. Problem for Vajjanathan. Car definitely doesn't sound completely healthy, and he's dropped away. Randall now in 13th, being stalked there by Capo, trying to fight with McLeod. What's interesting is also the weather forecast for Sunday. Could very well be wet, and that changes the complexion of this race completely. As we see that Ericsson streaks away, but it's Nico Kari with definitely the fastest first sector time. He's 4/10 up on Eilert, who is he stalking. Yep, there he is. Kari behind Eilert. Then it's Albon. And set the camera having to defend from Pedro Piquet. Piquet dives down into the slipstream. Nose almost underneath the rear wing. But can't find a way past under braking. The trick is to not be completely behind, really tucked into the slipstream coming out of the chicane. As we see the start, and it was Zhu who had the worst start. Nearly stole it off the line. But he managed to get going. Where is Zhu? He's in 10th. But that's a big problem for his podium hopes on Sunday. As the second lap's completed, and Nico Kari sets the fastest lap, 1:32.8. But he only manages to reel in Callum Eilert with a couple of hundredths of a second. First four all posting 1:32.8 on this opening lap. Or rather the second lap, the first full lap. As we see some more restarts. Oh, some more replays from the start. Randall, Capo, Vajenatan finally making his way to the pit lane. And this car definitely not sounding completely healthy. So they are 2 down, Carlin. As Colton Herta now exits the pits for his opening lap of this race. At least trying to get some seat time under his belt. Try to understand these F3 cars a little bit better. They're unique because of the high amount of downforce they generate compared to the horsepower they have. 2-liter engines, air intake, the amount of air regulated by that huge scoop and the restrictor inside. As we follow Piquet, dropped off a little bit, dropped away from Sette Camera, as Eilert posts the fastest lap. Callum Eilert for Van Amersfoort Racing. He's only 8/10 behind Ericsson. The problem is, once you get within that second, you'll start to notice that turning into a long corner, a fast corner like Schijfvlak, like the final corner here, the Arie Luijendijk corner, then the car doesn't really want to turn in. Which in turn means that you lose some speed coming out of the corner. Ericsson, Eilert, Kari, all matching first sector times. Kari's close to Eilert, 5/10 of a second, half a second between them. Circuit 4.3 kilometers long. And the confirmation that Eilert posted the fastest lap. Also does well in the second sector. But the fastest in that second sector is Piquet, as he latches himself back onto the back of Sette Camara. It's impressive from Piquet, because it's the first time really in a long time in the European Championship, we definitely haven't seen it that often, that Piquet has been really quick. Let's see what he can do. As Ericsson posts a new fastest time, 1:31.9. Let's wait for Piquet, 1:32.2. So Ericsson consolidates his lead. It's now up to a second. Kari in third. Interestingly, Callum Eilert is quickest in the second sector, but loses definitely a bit of momentum through the first. In part it's because he can't get onto the main straight as quickly as Joel Eriksson. And I also think Eriksson is quite good under braking for Tarzan. In the meantime, Nico Kari is definitely not giving up on second. Posts a fastest, a best first sector. But loses out in the second compared to Eilert. So yet again it's about that opening lap, the opening salvo in an F3 race. This could be interesting though, as Colton Hurton comes in. All manner of issues for the Carlin team. And this is definitely something Trevor Carlin won't be happy about. One car in 8th, 2 cars in with issues, and the rear bodywork comes off. A laptop at the ready. Almost feels electrical, the issue. A short misfire, something like that. With Vajadnathan, it definitely felt like that. Both cars still in the pit lane now. Harrison Scott starts to defend a little bit from Sam McLeod, as we see Piquet trying to get onto terms with Sergio Sette Câmara. The 2 Brazilians together. You can see where Piquet makes up some time, but he loses out through the final sector. And perhaps when we are able to follow this fight, you'll see him struggling through to the final 2 corners. Work has started at the Lara for an update on the current F3 car. In effect, it's still an open regulated series, an open chassis series. Build your own car and you can compete, but the Lara has really dominated the market for the better part of 2 decades now. As Ericsson improves his fastest lap to a 1:31.8, and impressively he's half a second faster than Eilert. Doing well, Ericsson. As he streaks through Slotenmakers. Going up the hill, over the crest, and then going down through Schijfvlak. Made up a lot of time in the final corner on that last lap. All these cars look similar to one another, but in the details they're quite different. A lot of these teams have their own aerodynamic programs, the development programs in the wind tunnel, trying to eke every last pound worth of downforce out of these cars. Something that the FIA is looking at to perhaps restrict a little bit, because A, the budgets have definitely gone up exponentially, and B, it doesn't help the racing on a circuit like Zandvoort, where you have all these quick corners. It means that you can't stay with the car in front. But nobody can stay with Ericsson. Ericsson improving his final sector time as he moves to a 1:31.8 again, matches his fastest lap. Nico Kari just posts a 1:32.3, still slower than Eilert, so the top 3, they've settled a bit. I'd say the top 4, because Alexander Albon is safely in 4th. But Sergio Sette Câmara still has his rear view mirrors full with the white and blue Dallara of Piquet. It's impressive what Ericsson is posting in this lap again. As Kari manages to improve on the fastest first sector time. Maybe finding some more pace as this race progresses. As you can already see a little bit of graining on the left rear tire. Callum Eilert definitely working the Kumho tires. Yeah, with the direction of the wind, it gives you higher top speed. It makes sure that once you go into Kumho here, You get it right on the nose. It then settles the car. It makes it also difficult to gauge how fast you really can go into that corner. One of the biggest problems, well, not problem, but one of the difficulties that racers have at Zandvoort with the dune sand across the circuit, with changing winds. Every lap the circuit can feel differently, and judging your braking points, your entry speeds, it's very, very difficult. You need some experience here. It's experience that Pedro Piquet doesn't have, but still he's making a good show of it. He's doing well. Just improved to a 132.2 as the number 17 comes in, Sam McLeod. Vortec Motorsport comes in. Issues there. And it's a little bit of a race of attrition, strangely. Can't see any damage, but they're feeling, he's probably reported a huge vibration or problems with the understeer. Just fiddling around with the wishbones, with every single suspension component, steering as well, steering rod there. As we see Kari inching closer to Callum Islet, as we heard Joel Eriksson going through the rev limiter. He's the only one who's doing that, so he's either too late or it's something that they've done to that car to make it a bit different on the shift points. Still quicker than Islet. Islet loses out to Kari by 0.2 of a second. Difference now 0.9 of a second. And Kari definitely hasn't given up on this. Interestingly, it's been a good race, this. Callum Islet, fifth in the European F3 standings, although this race doesn't count for the European Championship. Nico Kari, he has had a couple of podium positions this year, but a lot of DNFs as well. No race wins though. As Piquet has dropped away from the back of Sergio Sette Camara's car. He's lost half a second in the first sector. And he now has to contend with defending, I guess, from Antoine Hubert, his teammate. The silver car, the high-tech machine of Albon. Then the Red Bull colors for Sette Camara. Oh, and there you could see Piquet is struggling to turn the car. That'll affect his top speed on the straight. As he again loses out to Sette Camara. 33-0 for Piquet. Important to not hit the curb, either curb, through Slotenmakers, and settles the car at high speeds. You see how inch perfect these drivers are. And Nico Kari again makes up some time. 0.3 through the first sector. As you see Callum Islet struggling with the balance of his Van Amersfoort Dallara. Rear tire seemingly going off. As we are entering the final stages of this qualifying race. No real dramas for the contenders up front, but a couple of teams in the wars and with cars in the pit lane. As Joel Eriksson continues to lead. Ahead of Callum Islet and Nico Kari. Kari impressive on race pace, especially in the latter stages of this race. Safe in the knowledge that tomorrow's main race, the Sunday race, is over 25 laps. We've just entered the final lap in this qualifying race. 12 laps 25 minutes this race. But no problems for Ericsson. Can't say the same for Callum Ilott. He'll have to defend, especially in the middle part of this circuit, where he seems to struggle a bit. Well balanced, Ericsson. Touch of understeer. That's about it. Oh, as you see, Ilott struggling again, loses rear grip. But he's safe, I think, in second. Well, I know he's in second, but I don't know if whether or not he's safe. Through Hans Ernst's corner, the chicane. For the final time, Joel Eriksson, as he is heading towards the finish flag and securing pole position for the main event tomorrow. And he does so, coming out of Arie Luijendijk corner, celebrates early. Well done to Joel Eriksson. Well done again. Callum Ilott in second, holds on. And third, Nico Kari. Fourth, Albon, Seta Camara and PK. That's the top 6 in this race. But a couple of drivers have something to think about. And definitely that goes for Callum Ilott. Eriksson and Kari, the Motorpark duo, showing that their cars definitely have the pace throughout the race. But as said earlier, there's some rain forecast for tomorrow. Everything they've learned over the last 2 days, perhaps they won't be able to use that tomorrow. And then it's all about raw ability and trying to adjust as soon as you can. A great start for Joel Eriksson and great pace throughout this 18-minute race. Gives him victory in this qualifying race. As luckily we haven't seen any crashes. No team with a lot of work to do in terms of rebuilding cars. Although especially Carlin is suffering a little bit with 2 cars in the pit lane early on. As we see Joel Eriksson, Callum Ilott, Nico Kari, Alex Albon, Sergio Seta Camara and Pedro Piquet rounding out the top 6 in this qualifying race for the Masters of Formula 3.
Second place for Callum Ilott, third position for Nico Kari, fourth place Alexander Albon, fifth position for Sergio Seta Camara, fifth place for
Joel Eriksson puts his Motorpark Dallara in the middle of the pack as a winner of the race. This is Callum Ilott actually. Not happy, definitely not happy. As Nico Kari comes in. All mandated where they need to put the car. And there's the winner, Joel Eriksson. I'd be confused for a minute. But knows the winner takes center stage. And the Swede definitely did that in this qualifying race. Great race, great start. And as so often, it's all about the start. Number 14. That's his number. Not in this race though. But he did well. Posted the fastest lap of the race, a 1:31.8. One of only 2 drivers to break the 1:32 barrier. Nico Kari, who congratulates his teammate, is the other one. So Motorpark is in great shape for this race. The German team doing incredibly well. They've had a tough season fighting with especially High-Tech and Prema Power. But doing really well here.
Good start and then control it from the front, I suppose. Sorry?
As he streaks across the finish line, Joel Eriksson savoring victory there. Finishing with enough of a gap. It's impressive how he drove away from Callum Aylett, seemingly suffering with a little bit of a lack of rear wheel grip in the Dallara. As he put the rear tires under load, seemed to twitch ever more during the race. Something they'll need to fix for tomorrow, as the race is twice as long, the main race for the Masters of Formula 3. Drivers heading towards the podium. Nico Kari also having a good start, just like Joel Eriksson. As we await the drivers, Joel Eriksson, Callum Aylett and Nico Kari for this qualifying race.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start with the official pricing of this qualification race in Formula 3. Masters of Formula 3, 26 time tomorrow. The host is starting with, on the third place, will be Nico Kari.
So in third place it's Nico Kari, a rapid young Finn, picked up by Red Bull. In second, Callum Aylett, definitely not happy. That doesn't go for the winner of this race, Joel Eriksson. Great start, and for him the national anthem.
Congratulations.
So great race for Joel Eriksson. He knows he'll be able to start from pole position for the 26th edition of the Masters of Formula 3 race on Sunday afternoon. Will it be wet? Will it be dry? The weather will play a large part in this race. But he has his first trophy of the weekend and, more importantly, the best starting position. As always, the start is the key for a Formula 3 race at Zandvoort. He had the better start, better than Callum Aylett, who receives his trophy for second. Has some work to do, as well as the team, because the car really looked lively at the end of the 12-lap race. The race on Sunday will be over 25 laps. A real endurance race in terms of F3 racing. And Joel Eriksson will be able to start that main race from pole position as he vies for a spot on that impressive Roll of Honor at the Masters of F3. All that's left is the champagne as we head into Sunday and the main race here at Zandvoort.